Big shout out to Ladida for requesting this story. Once upon a time, in the middle of the flat, gray prairies of Kansas, a little girl named Dorothy lived in a small wooden house with her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry. One afternoon, the sky turned a dark, scary color, and a great cyclone began to howl. "Run for the cellar, Dorothy," Uncle Henry shouted. But Dorothy ran to grab her little dog, Toto, who was hiding under the bed.
We have to get out of here. This way, come on! Shh, stay close.
Before she could reach the storm cellar, the house began to shake and lift into the air. It spun around and around, rising higher into the clouds until it was floating like a feather. Dorothy was terrified at first, but the swaying of the house felt like being rocked in a cradle. And she eventually fell fast asleep. She slept for many hours while the house traveled across the sky. And she was only woken up by a sudden jarring thud. The house had landed. Dorothy opened the door and gasped, for she was no longer in gray Kansas. She was in a land of marvelous beauty, with green grass, fruit trees, and flowers of every bright color. As she stood in the doorway, she saw a group of the strangest people she had ever seen coming toward her. They were about as tall as Dorothy, but they looked much older, with white beards and blue hats that rose a foot high to a point. Among them was a little woman dressed in a white gown that sparkled like diamonds. The woman walked up to Dorothy, bowed low, and said in a sweet voice, "You are welcome, most noble sorceress, to the land of the Munchkins. We are so grateful to you for killing the wicked witch of the East and setting our people free from bondage." Dorothy was shocked and stammered, "You are very kind, but there must be some mistake. I have not killed anyone." The little woman pointed to the corner of the house and laughed. "Your house did it for you." "Look." Dorothy looked and saw 2 feet, wearing silver shoes with pointed toes, sticking out from under the heavy wooden beams of her home. "Oh dear," Dorothy cried, wringing her hands. "The house fell on her. Whatever shall we do?" The woman replied calmly, "There is nothing to be done. She was a very wicked witch who kept the Munchkins as slaves for many years. Now they are free, and they thank you." Dorothy asked the woman who she was, and the lady replied, "I am the good witch of the north. I am a friend to the Munchkins, though I am not as powerful as the wicked witch was, or I would have freed them myself." Dorothy was surprised because she thought all witches were bad. "No, that is a great mistake," the good witch explained. "In the land of Oz, there were 4 witches. 2 were good, those who live in the north and the south, and 2 were wicked, those who lived in the east and the west. Now that you have killed the one in the east, there is only one wicked witch left in all of Oz, and she lives in the west." Dorothy asked if she could help her get back to Kansas, but the good witch shook her head. "Between us and Kansas is a great desert that no one can cross. You must go to the Emerald City and ask the great wizard of Oz to help you." To protect her, the good witch stepped close and gave Dorothy a soft kiss on her forehead. Where her lips touched, they left a round, shining mark that could not be washed away. "This mark will keep you safe," she said. No one will dare hurt a person who bears the kiss of the good witch of the north. Then she took the silver shoes from the dead witch's feet and gave them to Dorothy. These shoes are now yours. They have a magic of their own, but no one knows what it is. Dorothy started her long walk down the road of yellow brick. Along the way, she met a scarecrow who wanted a brain, a tin woodman who wanted a heart, and a cowardly lion who wanted courage. They all decided to go to the Emerald City together. However, far across the yellow fields of the west, the Wicked Witch of the West was watching them. This witch was very scary because she had only one eye, but that eye could see everything happening in the world. When she saw Dorothy wearing her sister's silver shoes, she became very angry. "I must have those shoes," she cackled to herself, her voice sounding like the scratching of a rat. "They are more powerful than any magic I possess." She blew a silver whistle to call her wolves, and then her crows to attack the travelers, but Dorothy's friends protected her. Finally, the witch took out a magical golden cap. She stood on her left foot and said, "Epe, pepe, kake." Then on her right foot, "Hillo, holo, hello," and then on both feet, "Zizzi, zuzzi, zik." Suddenly, the sky was filled with the flapping of wings. The flying monkeys arrived, snatched up Dorothy and the lion, and carried them to the witch's castle. The Wicked Witch wanted to kill Dorothy right away, but when she saw the glowing mark of the good witch's kiss on Dorothy's forehead, she began to tremble with fear. She knew she could not hurt the girl. Instead, she decided to make Dorothy her slave. "Clean these pots, girl. Scrub the floors," she barked, pointing her skinny finger.
"You call that clean? Scrub harder, you miserable girl!"
"And don't you dare stop, or I will beat you with my umbrella." Dorothy worked hard and cried many tears, while the witch spent her days trying to think of a way to steal the silver shoes. The witch knew Dorothy was afraid of the dark, and she also knew a secret about herself. She was so old and so wicked and dry that water was her greatest enemy. One morning, the witch used her magic to make an invisible iron bar appear on the kitchen floor. When Dorothy walked across the room, she tripped, and one of her silver shoes flew off. The witch grabbed it instantly and put it on her own foot. "It is mine," the witch laughed. "I have half the power now, and soon I shall have the other shoe." Dorothy was so upset that she began to cry. "Give me back my shoe. It is not your," she yelled. The witch only laughed harder. "I shall keep it anyway, and you can't do anything about it." In a fit of pure hot anger, Dorothy saw a bucket of water standing nearby. She grabbed it and threw the entire bucket over the witch. The witch let out a scream that sounded like a tea kettle whistling. "Look what you have done," she wailed, her face beginning to turn into a soft, runny mess. "I am melting. I am melting away." Dorothy watched, frozen in fear, as the witch's body began to shrink and dissolve into a brown, shapeless puddle on the floor. "I didn't know water would hurt you," Dorothy whispered. But the witch was gone, leaving nothing behind but the silver shoe. Dorothy picked up her shoe, put it back on, and freed her friends. They traveled to the south to see Glinda, the good witch of the south. Glinda was the most beautiful woman Dorothy had ever seen, with hair as red as the sunset. She sat on a throne of rubies and smiled at the little girl. "What can I do for you, my child?" she asked. Dorothy told her she wanted to go back to Kansas to her Aunt Em. Glinda leaned down and said, "Your silver shoes have wonderful powers. If you had known them, you could have gone home the very first day you arrived. All you must do is knock the heels together 3 times and command the shoes to carry you wherever you wish to go." Dorothy gasped in surprise. "But I wanted to help my friends," she said. Glinda nodded. "And you have. Now the Scarecrow rules the Emerald City, the Tin Woodman rules the West, and the Lion is king of the forest. Everyone is happy." She picked up Toto, knocked her silver heels together 3 times, and shouted, "Take me home to Aunt Em." There was a rushing sound of wind. The world became a blur, and suddenly Dorothy was tumbling through the grass. She looked up and saw the new farmhouse Uncle Henry had built. Her silver shoes had fallen off during the flight and were lost in the desert. But Dorothy didn't care. She ran into the arms of her aunt and said, "I'm so glad to be home again."
I'm so glad to be home again.